Story 1. I cannot bring myself to pay someone to do tasks I can do myself, such as yard work, working on my own car, and fixing things around the house, even though I can technically afford it now. Story 2. Buying items on sale. My husband grew up wealthy and will pay whatever without even looking at the price. I need to know how much it costs, and if there is a cheaper version, I will probably choose that one. Story 3. Assessing something's value. Is it worth it? Do I need it? Is there an alternative? Is the price relative to the product or just for the brand? I am grateful that my upbringing made me question capitalism and consumerism. I rarely make bad purchases. I have met people from different backgrounds, and it makes me feel grateful to have been raised with discernment. Story 4. Looking at the prices on menus instead of the names of the dishes. I do not care what you are selling if it is $30 a plate. Story 5. I will keep wearing clothes until they are practically rags. The same goes for my shoes. My in-laws give me clothes and shoes all the time, and I get the message. However, I just cannot throw something out if it is still functional. Story 6. I never order a drink, specifically at fast food places. I will get a drink when we go out to a restaurant, but for some reason my brain associates McDonald's with staying alive, not spending $3 on a Coke. Story 7. Eating cheese and crackers. It was often dinner when I was a kid, but it still tastes great all these years later as a snack for an adult. Story 8. When someone gives me a present, I feel bad because I fear that they spend too much money or cannot afford it. It is the same feeling I had as a child, knowing that my parents could not afford the things they gave me. Story 9. Buying the cheapest airplane ticket with as few upsells as possible and with poor timing at a distant airport because anything else feels like too much luxury and makes me feel like a bad person. Similarly, not renting a car or calling a taxi, but instead figuring out a complex transit system in a distant place in bad weather with many transfers and walking. Story 10. I found that I spend money on things rather than experiences. I didn't have much growing up and see value in possessions. I didn't really experience holidays or concerts. This is the opposite of what is said to be the most fulfilling in life. I also find it hard to take leave and lose any income. Story 11. Not changing my phone until it is actually on its last breath. My current one has been running for 7 years now and is actually good. Story 12. Drip coffee, a cocoa packet, and a little bit of milk. It is an inexpensive mocha and costs less than $1. Story 13. My husband grew up poor. When he gets new clothes, he won't wear them. They just hang in the closet. He said they are too nice to wear. He very rarely got new clothes when he was young, and whenever he did, he kept them nice as long as he could. I encourage him to wear his new clothes now, and we have money to buy more clothes whenever he needs. Story 14. I will never buy coffee from a shop or buy lunch when I am at work if I can make my own. I will always water down my shampoo, 2-to-1. I will always cut open the packet to scrape out the last toothpaste or whatever it is. I will never use kitchen towels or single-use cleaning products when I can cut up old clothes that are full of holes because I wore them to death. I will always check the half-price sales at supermarkets. I will always treat lost and found like pick and mix. I will never throw away food. Expiry dates are suggestions, not rules. I do not care about fancy labels. I will pick up coins from the ground. I will never stop appreciating hot water on tap, a flushing indoor toilet, showers, adequate amounts of whatever I need, and not being hungry, filthy, or inadequate. I will never skimp on pet food or vet bills. I may go without, but my dependents will want for nothing. Story 15. I will always know the exact price of things. Growing up poor, every penny counted. For some reason, I still know within a reasonable percentage how much the price will be at the register. There is nothing as awkward as getting a not enough funds message on the display and having to pretend something is wrong with the card. Story 16. If there is still some product left in the bottle of soap, shampoo, conditioner, or other items, I will add water and shake it well. We are not wasting anything here. Story 17. I would not say I am financially comfortable yet, but I never order takeout. I do not even have those apps downloaded on my phone. I prefer to use any leftovers in the fridge to make myself a meal rather than eat out. If my friends wanted to hang out simply by visiting a restaurant, most of the time I would not go unless it is for a celebration. I also never grew up eating fast food, so to this day, if I am in a pinch, I still wait until I get home to eat. Story 18. Everyone opens one present at a time during Christmas. My wife's family has a free-for-all, and it stresses me out. Story 19. I think only the wealthy are comfortable now, but I am in better condition than I grew up in, and I have kept nearly all of those habits. I water down my shampoo, I wear clothes until they are falling apart, and I use all the toothpaste from the tube. I can still live on store-brand boxed food, and my first thought when I have any type of health issue is always, is this something that can be fixed with the right combination of supplies from Dollar General or Walgreens? Story 20. Buying secondhand. I have a rolling list of things we need, and I look for them at garage sales, the thrift store, and on Marketplace before I buy new. Story 21. Refusing to replace something that is broken until it is completely unusable or falls apart. I did not notice I was doing this until someone pointed it out to me. Story 22. Garage sales, not buying expensive cars, selling items instead of donating, saving leftovers, reusing plastic containers, cleaning my own house, turning off lights when leaving a room. I think just being mindful of waste overall. Story 23. I grew up wealthy, but my husband grew up poor, so I am answering on his behalf. He loves a fully stocked fridge. I grew up in a minimalistic and organized home, where the fridge had exactly what was needed. My mom designed the kitchen with precision, including detailed planning. A packed fridge overwhelms me because we can buy what we need when we plan for it, but my husband fears running out of food. I choose my battles, so we have a jam-packed fridge. Story 24. Finishing everything on my plate. I hate wasting food and will go to great lengths, even if I did not really like the food, to make sure it does not get wasted. Story 25. I turn off lights that people leave on and use reasonable heating, ventilation, and air conditioning settings that others do not always prefer. Story 26. I'm still wearing my uncle's trousers that were handed down to me. I have repaired the crotch about 12 times and fixed numerous other parts. They are going on 20 years old now. Story 27. 4 years. I have bought food from Aldi and Lidl, which are budget supermarkets in the United Kingdom. I still shop there for 2/3 of our weekly groceries. I never understood why friends who complain about being short of money would go into Waitrose or Whole Foods for food. Seems like a snobbish thing. Anytime I eat out with friends, I get mocked for choosing a greasy spoon cafe, but I am okay with that. I always like a bargain and still shop at Temu and charity shops. Story 28. Buying mostly items that are on sale, cleaning the house myself, and struggling with getting rid of my very old car because I do not want to pay the current prices for cars, even though I clearly have the money to do it. I have worked since I was 15 years old. Story 29. I am 46 years old. I keep and reuse plastic and glass containers as well as boxes that work well for organizing. I cannot fathom paying $30 for a basket when I have a perfectly sturdy shoebox that I can cover in decorative adhesive paper. Story 30. I never go on vacations such as those X days by the sea, all-inclusive, skiing in winter, and so on. Even though I am very comfortable nowadays and could definitely save a little and go, my mind does not allow it because it seems too expensive. My family could never afford such luxury back then, and this mentality has stuck with me. Story 31. I use all the toothpaste. I paid for the whole tube, so I am going to use the whole tube. I make a game out of it. Story 32. Not me, but my partner. We get our groceries online, and he checks every product carefully. He is happy when he receives something extra for free. He was especially happy when they sent us a different white pepper at no cost. The pepper costs 56 cents. Story 33. I cannot bring myself to buy anything other than fuel at a gas station. The markup on sodas and snacks is so high I cannot bring myself to buy anything. I am convinced that if I do, I will bankrupt my family. Story 34. Only buy items on sale. There is no reason to purchase anything at full price when it will decrease in price at some point. Story 35. I always have some money set aside in case I see my parents struggling. That money does not count as my money. It is for them and I will never touch it, even if I am the one starving. Story 36. Eating as much free food at the event as possible. I still really like hamburger helper beef stroganoff. Story 37. I do everything myself, including medical care, home repairs, and auto repairs. Turn off lights and lower the heat. Avoid eating out frequently. No expensive cars or vacations. Maintain zero debt. Do not lend or borrow money. Story 38. If I can do it myself, I'm doing it myself. My husband is the same way and he also grew up poor. I taught myself to bake. And now I don't have to pay anyone for my kids' birthday cakes and cookies. I also have people paying me to bake for them. My husband has learned many new skills through YouTube, and we invested in some tools so he can do most repairs himself. I'm extremely frugal at the store. There are only a few things I buy that are name brand. Most things are almost identical, so why pay more for a name? I used to care about clothing and shoe brands as a teen, but now I just need one good pair of sneakers, and the rest are inexpensive shoes from Walmart or Target. Story 39. I wasn't poor, just probably dropped from upper middle class to lower middle class after my parents split. To this day, I can't enjoy spending money easily. Some things I'll be okay with, but I still try to spend very little on myself. Story 40. Waste food. Leave tap water on longer than needed. Buy expensive clothes or a high-end car. Vehicles are tools of transportation. If they are comfortable and reliable, there is no point in buying something just because it goes faster or looks nicer. For clothes, it is the same concept. Quality has a price, but I am not the Prince of Wales and do not need to wear top-brand items to feel better about my appearance. Besides, there is only so much a suit can do. Story 41. Not fixing cosmetic damage. For example, my car looks pretty beat up since the paint on the front bumper is peeling off. It is purely cosmetic and does not affect the performance of the vehicle. I see no need to spend a few $100s to get a new paint job. Story 42. Grabbing more napkins from the dispenser than I need at that time. I mean, why go to Costco and buy them when I can get them from McDonald's for free? Story 43. Spending at least 30 minutes to find the best promotional code for online purchases. On top of using applications like Honey, Capital One Codes, and Rakuten. Even for the smallest discount, it is just so satisfying to never pay full price. Email and text sign-up codes? Absolutely right to my spam accounts. There is always a code. Story 44. Keeping the thermostat just below what most people consider comfortable. Maintaining things until they are literally falling apart. Story 45. We are wealthy now, but I cannot get my wife to stop collecting cans to sell to the recycling plant. Story 46. That impulse to spend all the money that hits your account as soon as it arrives. You get so used to having a frighteningly small or negative balance that even a moderate balance feels uncomfortable. I don't know how best to describe it, but it's a near pathological need to spend every paycheck immediately. It can be overcome, but for me, it is by moving the money into other accounts until my main checking account is low enough to feel comfortable, safe, and familiar. Story 47. I crave burnt toast and government cheese. I still use the flakes of bar soap until they disappear. I will not use baking soda to brush my teeth though. Story 48. I did not grow up very poor but had a single mother with a low income. I rarely buy clothing unless it is on sale. Generally, I stock up on whatever clothing I need at the end of the season so that I have it for the future. I am not very fashionable, but I have never really cared. Story 49. Definitely fixing it myself. I've already saved thousands. My tools are nicer now, but I will only call a professional if I could legitimately harm myself by messing it up. For example, I paid an electrician to replace the fuse panel and a few other things we needed. It cost me $2,700. Story 50. Every time I need to buy something quite expensive that I can definitely afford, I have to consider the idea for a few days. Even if I have budgeted for it and know that I do not need the money for anything else, I almost have an anxiety attack before I commit to buying something expensive. Story 51. Never throw good food away. Always ask for your leftovers at a restaurant to be boxed up for takeaway. Takeaway and restaurant dining are a treat, not a regular feeding option. Story 52. During colder months, once I have finished cooking in the oven and turned it off, I open the door wide so the heat goes into the room. I paid for that heat. Darn it. Story 53. Buying things I want right now because tomorrow I might not have the money. It is a very bad habit. Story 54. I hate wasting food. I still buy my regular clothes from supermarkets, and I try fixing things myself before calling someone. Story 55. When grocery shopping, I always look for the least expensive package of something I want to buy, for example, cheese or meat. Story 56. Kraft macaroni and cheese was and will always be a delicacy. Add a can of tuna, and you have a poor person's Michelin star-worthy dish. Story 57. I remember the price of everything, always. Do you want to know how much the plane ticket to Singapore was 3.5 years ago? I have that information for you. Story 58. Ironing my own shirts. I wear suits and dress shirts 4 days a week, and I just cannot bring myself to get those shirts laundered and dry cleaned. Story 59. I am not yet financially stable, but I know that no matter how much money I have, I refuse to spend a large amount of money on anything just for its brand name and status. Story 60. Growing up with nothing teaches you how to stretch every dollar and appreciate every win. That mindset never leaves you, even when the money starts coming in. Story 61. When I find something I like on clearance, I stock up. I found an online men's grooming supplier that had my favorite beard products and pomades very inexpensive, and I am basically stocked up through next year at least. Story 62. To this day, I appreciate hot water as an absolute luxury, a full refrigerator, and the warmth of a fire. Some things stay with you for a lifetime. Story 63. Scarcity mindset. It led to overeating as a habit because I could not waste food, and leftovers would not be there for more than a few hours if I tried to store them. Also, saving money and refusing to spend it from the moment I was emancipated at 16, even though my wages were never particularly good, just in case of some disastrous emergency. It turns out that emergency became moving to a new country. I am struggling now, but I was decently comfortable back home. Story 64. Anything nice that came in a special box is put away there when I am not using it. I have guitars that all live in cases, synthesizers that live in their retail boxes when I am not playing with them, mixers, keyboards, a practice amplifier, and an audio interface. I do not have enough space to have them permanently set up, but I do not think I would want to anyway. They are all in excellent condition because I put them away in their packaging when they are not in use. My wife thinks I am crazy. Story 65. Spending money on anything other than bills and groceries without a whirlwind of guilt and anxiety building within me. I lived on borrowing and long work hours for so long, never being in the black, always drowning in the red. I am still not wealthy by any means, but compared to where I was 10 years ago, it is night and day. Story 66. I will not say I grew up poor. We had enough, but never a lot, and I didn't feel like we missed anything, even if we never went on vacation or did stuff like that. My mindset: I can't spend money without thinking about what else I could get instead. I am in the city with my kids, having ice cream, and my brain goes, we could instead buy ice cream at the grocery store and use the rest on something else. Story 67. Using nearly everything until it completely stops working or falls apart, and spending a significant amount of time researching all of my options before any major purchase. Story 68. Checking grocery store flyers and stocking up when an item is on sale. Recently bought 30 pounds of chicken and 8 six-packs of soft drinks. I am a bargain hunter at heart. Story 69. I will wear down anything and everything until it is unusable. Clothes need to be hanging by the threads. Shoes must have holes, and soles will have to disappear. Car will be run into the ground before thinking of getting a newer one. This is ironic because I have a Toyota. Story 70. I cannot buy anything for myself without thinking if it is really needed, and sometimes it takes months. Story 71. Throwing away reusable plastic containers with lids is wasteful. What if I make a meal and have leftovers for the neighbor? What if everything is dirty and I still have leftovers? Why buy lunch boxes when I can reuse these containers for lunch? Story 72. You bought or loaned me something. I will pay you back as soon as possible. I do not want to ever experience being in debt again. Story 73. My rule for spending money on luxuries or even clothes is the same. 1 day of consideration for every $10. Something costs €50? I will think about it for 5 days. If I still want it after that time, I will buy it. This helps me prevent impulsive shopping. Story 74. I dated a wealthy attorney who would always finish what I did not eat at the restaurant. I got to the point where, even if I planned to take it home, I would just say, I guess you can have it. Since the look on his face was always so telling. I mean, if he needs it that badly, I can just make my lunch for the next day. The first time he did that was on our first date. I had a salmon dish, and he seemed perplexed that I did not finish it all. Later, he explained how rough, more like poor, his childhood was. Story 75. Doing maintenance and repairs myself. Currently have a net worth of $600,000 with zero debt. When the dryer breaks, I will fix it myself instead of buying a new one or having it repaired. Story 76. Just being very conscious about money, I guess. After more than 20 years of playing guitar, I finally caved in and bought a top-of-the-line, pretty expensive guitar. It makes me incredibly happy, but there's a little voice in the back of my head saying, why did you spend so much on a guitar? Story 77. Letting lotion, soap, and shampoo bottles stay upside down when they are almost empty helps to use the last bit. Story 78. Well, binge eating is either out of fear that food will be gone or relief that I have it. I am working through this with my therapist, but it is definitely tied to the severe food insecurity my mother and I experienced. Story 79. I take care of and use things until they are unusable. Clothes, cars, electronic equipment, utensils, anything really. Story 80. I feel really bad if I buy something that is not an immediate necessity. If I have to buy something I need that is expensive or cheaper in a different shop, but I need to buy it now, it feels like that specific purchase will ruin me financially, even if it is just food or gas for my car. I just cannot realize for myself that I am no longer poor. Story 81. My sister-in-law grew up under the embargo of Serbia during the Milosevic era. She is very well off now but still buys very cheap, badly made clothes, just in larger quantities. Story 82. It takes a lot for me to buy new clothes. My shoes tend to fall apart first. Before a trip, I bought several pairs of jeans, but before that, I was constantly low on pants. I still rarely buy clothes unless there is a specific, important reason to. Story 83. I can't waste food because my mother taught me to eat everything on my plate. I order and purposely cut a meal in half to plan for a takeaway box or order one less beer because I have read the room and we will be leaving in an hour or so. I hate throwing food away. Story 84. Wanting designer clothes. I always wanted the newest and best clothes and trainers as a kid. I am now 38 and can get what I always wanted. On the odd occasion, I do treat myself, but it is never enough. Story 85. We weren't poor and we're not rich, but growing up, I loved reading. Of course, like I said, we weren't rich enough for me to buy every book I wanted to read. So, I would go to our school or community libraries to borrow books. Now, I do buy books, especially by authors I admire, but I still borrow from libraries. Story 86. Struggling with going to the dentist is probably the toughest. The dentist, when I was a child, preferred to extract teeth. Once grown up, a dentist asked why I was missing for molars. I had to say I had no idea. Story 87. I do not spend any money on anything for myself. I will overspend on items for others. My shoes were falling apart, and I agonized over buying a new pair for months. Then I felt guilty about it. Story 88. I'm just bad with money. I never learned how to manage money and not just spend it. I spend it like it will disappear if I don't. Story 89. I have a lot of expensive clothing and shoes that I never wear because I am saving them for special occasions. I still wear dresses from 10 years ago until they are completely worn out. Story 90. The instant ramen dinner when I have fresh food ready to cook. Candlelit quiet evening instead of gaming and music or comfort shows. Dry sourdough bread and unsweetened tea as an enjoyable meal before bed. I won't be taking my shoes off. Those socks with a visible hole will hit the dance floor one last time. Extra cash for fun? Go window shopping and come back for an actual purchase when I have made up my mind that I really want something. Usually I don't, so I have a nice walk around the shops I like, see what's new, but end up not buying anything. Story 91. I live a very basic life while allowing myself minor luxuries. I rarely buy clothes or shoes unless I absolutely need to, and they have to be on sale. Growing up without much made me realize I should not ask for anything outside of necessities. As an adult, I do not have any urges to buy things unless they are practical and needed. Story 92. I wear clothes far past their replacement time. I also see anything more than a t-shirt as being a bit fancy, which means that when I want to dress up a bit, I often miss the mark and stand out as underdressed or overdressed. Story 93. I really think everyone should be poor at some point in their life. I believe it makes you appreciate things much more. I still do all the things everyone has mentioned here, but when I splurge on something, I appreciate it more because I know what it was like to grow up in a low-income, single mother situation. Story 94. Not having money was one thing, but the ones who raised me did teach me about respect. It amazes me in public how much people disregard others. Story 95. I go on Amazon to buy things I need, like boxers, and when the price is slightly higher than I expected, I do not complete the checkout. I have to think about it for a while, realize that it is something I actually need and can afford, and then return to complete the purchase later. Story 96. Compared to how I grew up, I am definitely financially comfortable, but compared to the rest of the United States of America, we tread water carefully and are still at the poverty line. Things that I have always done since I was about 6 years old that I will probably be doing forever. Owning as few things as possible because everything I own is multifunctional for at least 3 purposes. My father and I moved a lot. If I wanted to keep something, I could not own much. For example, right now I only own 4 bowls, but they are really glass storage containers, so I can just use a lid for my leftovers. They are also oven safe, so I can reheat my leftovers without a microwave. Needing justification and logic to purchase a service. If I can fix something, clean something, build something myself, or take a short class to learn to do it myself, I will. Wearing clothes until they fall apart. I am traveling right now, and when I made my packing list, I genuinely wrote tattered lounge pants on my list. Story 97. Fixing my own stuff. If it is broken and can be repaired, you bet I am going to be on YouTube learning how to do it and going to Harbor Freight to buy the tools. Story 98. I just stopped rinsing out old butter and sour cream tubs and using them as storage containers to store leftovers. Story 99. Food waste is a huge problem for me. Children often abandon half-eaten meals repeatedly. It hurts the soul. Story 100. Holding on to worn-out but serviceable items for too long. A large number of sauce packets. Not spending enough money on myself and putting myself last. Story 101. I try to do as much as I can myself instead of hiring someone to do it for me, from dog grooming to home repairs. Story 102. I know it is bad for your health, but it is hard for me to get into a new pair of shoes before I have gotten all the benefits from my old pair. I wear them until they are slick on the bottom or even have holes worn through the soles to the point they get wet in the rain. I keep them looking clean on the tops and never let them get too dirty, but they definitely have high mileage. Story 103. Not to steal your question, but how about if you grew up poor and married someone who grew up rich? That is me, and my habits that I cannot change mixed with my husband's habits are really fun for our kids. For example, basic foods on hand like beans on the stove versus buying new technology when you want, thrift clothing versus owning a hot tub. Story 104. I will never stop being superstitious. I grew up in rural Mississippi on a farm, a poor farm, not one of those idyllic magazine cover scenes. I worked in the same fields as B.B. King did, literally. I saw men gathered one day with serious expressions, pale with fear, looking at where something being dragged had left a mark that disappeared from sight going down the road. That road winds alongside a river connecting farms to town and was the main, only road in the area for a long time. Originally, it was a Choctaw trail. They said the devil pulls a logging chain that stretches for miles down that road at night. I listened as the eldest, most respected man in the group told how he'd returned to the field for something he left the night before. When he got back to the road, that chain was tapping each link over and echoing into a metal drain pipe along the road. He said it took hours to pass by as he stood there in the dark, terrified, listening to the tapping, the moon rising allowing him to see the chain but not daring to step over or approach it. Musicians talk about going to the crossroads to sell their soul to the devil to learn to play guitar, and having grown up on that road, I've never known it to get a musician. People really avoid even bringing it up at all. You see empty beer bottles with the whole neck pushed into the crumbling pavement, as if placed there when the road was built, left sticking up like a runway light. It's impossible to push a beer bottle into that pavement. I've tried. As kids, we'd ride along and break the bottles. I don't know how, why, or what exactly goes on out there at night, but the sunrise out there is phenomenal. It's like a different atmosphere exists. Feels like you're in the mountains. It's oddly windy, but you're in an enormous, mostly drained swampy area out there. Story 105, what we affectionately call Florida nachos. Tortilla chips and shredded cheese. Microwave for 30 seconds. Boom. An absolute smash of a snack any time of day. Story 106. Never throw anything out until you have its replacement in your hand. Even a broken tool is better than no tool at all. I might go months with a broken tool before I replace it. Story 107. I just added water to my almost empty dishwashing liquid bottle, even though I can afford a new bottle. I do the same with shampoo bottles too. Story 108. My wife and I both grew up poor, but we make around $325,000 per year now in a low cost of living state. I still change our vehicle's oil, mow my own lawn, eat instant ramen, and sneak candy into movie theaters. Story 109. Finishing my food because I do not want to waste any. Also, taking advantage of free food even when I can afford to buy it for myself. Story 110. Using grocery bags for the bathroom trash can. Putting the cereal on top of the fridge. Do not leave any food on the table as it is wasteful. And most importantly, turn the lights off if you are not using the room. Story 111. I still save every plastic container just in case. Yogurt tubs become Tupperware now. Glass jars are used for fancy storage. I have a whole cupboard that looks like a recycling bin, and I still feel strange throwing any of them away. Story 112. Not having actual night clothes, just really old t-shirts I cannot wear out anymore and sweatpants I have had since high school that are hanging on for dear life. Story 113. Before throwing them away when they seem empty, I add water to the shampoo and liquid soap bottles to get the last bits. I also cut the toothpaste tube open and get another week of use before throwing it away. Story 114. Reusing yogurt, pasta sauce, salsa, and other containers and jars to store leftovers. We also go 2 months every year, once in spring and once in fall, with no heating or cooling in the house. I try to fix things myself first. My partner grew up with money and always wants to call someone to fix the problem. Seems odd to me. I can save some cash and learn a new skill. It is already broken, so I am not likely to make it much worse. Story 115. Finish all your food. Changing the oil. Washing my cars. Looking at my socks and underwear and saying, still good. Story 116. I struggle not to buy the absolute cheapest option. I do math in the grocery store to compare price by weight to theoretically save cents. Sometimes this might make sense, but it is often negligible. I have to do it for basically everything because that is just how we went shopping when I was a kid. I have worked to allow myself to buy items for qualities other than being the cheapest. I am comfortable and can afford it is a mantra I use in the store, but I still struggle. With the rate of inflation in the last few years, I would stop buying certain things I loved because the price increase was too painful to deal with, which made no sense because we technically had enough money to buy them. I did not eat peppers for a year, one of my favorite vegetables, because I could not justify the extra couple of dollars. Story 117. Our household income is well into 6 figures, but I reuse my sandwich bags even though a package of 100 only costs $8. I take a sandwich to work 5, sometimes 6 days a week, and I have not bought another package of resealable bags in 5 years. I put the date in permanent marker on the box when we bought it. March 20th, 2020. I only take a new one when the resealable part starts to fail. I think the box I'm on has at least 5 more years left. It drives my wife crazy. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.